Welcome to another episode of Off the Menu. I'm your host, Vincent Franchini from Tumblr House, here with an elderly Charles Coulombe.
Elderly?
Yeah, you're getting up there, Charles.
Elderly, you mean like old-timer?
Yeah.
Senescent?
I actually don't know that one. Yeah, okay.
Grandpa?
Yeah, well, I'm Grandpa Millennial, you're Baby Boomer, so...
But I'm old baby boomer, apparently. Older in dust.
Yeah.
Older in God. The
Wait.
child of the pyramids.
In a sense, yeah, okay.
So let me get this straight. So in other words, in front of millions of people around the country and across the world, across the globe, you are demonstrating ageism.
I am demonstrating acceptance for accepting you as you are.
You are defining me as an old person, as a senior citizen, basically, is what you're saying. I'm in the golden sunset of my years, is what you're telling me.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, okay. But time is passing. Do you know why I'm wearing my American flag lapel pin?
Why?
Because by the time our happy family of viewers sees this, it will be Armistice Day, Remembrance Day, Veterans Day. Now, for us Catholics, it's also Martinmas Day, the Feast of St. Martin of Tours. So you can drink wine and eat goose, if you can find any. Fortunately, because I'm here in Austria, I plan to have a huge goose dinner tomorrow.
Okay, Charles,
yeah.
we get it. It's savory. It's succulent.
It's wonderful and delicious and good and yummy and all that stuff. And you can't easily get it in SoCal, but I can get it very easily here in Austria, and I'm grateful.
Okay, I'm happy for you, Charles.
As you should be. But wait, there's more. The city of New York has banned foie gras.
What? Wait, what's that?
Goose liver.
Why did they do that?
Because the gays are forced to eat, and they're terrible. And oh, gee, Willikers, it's just so bad. And Mayor de Blasio is so concerned about concern.
Why just goose liver, though?
Well, why not?
I mean, as compared to, like, whole goose, right?
Yeah. You can still have whole goose without the liver.
I mean, it's like banning chicken livers, but not drumsticks, you know?
Did I ever say that Mayor de Blasio was a smart person?
He's running for president, isn't he? Did I just see him in the news? I think.
Yeah, he's another one of the sideshow freaks of the Democratic Party are bringing out. You know, if they want to defeat Trump, emptying the sideshow of its denizens is not the way to do it. Step right up, ladies and gentlemen. See the amazing Democratic Party candidates. Before your very eyes they appear. The pinhead, the bearded lady, the two-headed man, the geek. Here they are, ladies and gentlemen. Vote for one of them for president of these United States, and we guarantee a ride as creepy as anything we've ever had before.
They know they're going to lose. They know they're going to get killed, and they are going to get killed. They're going to get destroyed.
So apparently they're just coming up with sacrificial victims.
Well, that's why they're doing this impeachment thing. And I love the Babylon Bee so much. One of their good ones was more people would support impeachment if they actually knew what we're going to impeach Donald Trump for.
Oh.
But we don't actually even know what we're going to impeach him for, so...
I mean, words fail me. We're going to get him on something because he's got to be guilty of something.
There we go. Get your blood flowing. Get your juices flowing. Let's go.
I get it. You hate the Trumpster. I understand. I'm not what you would call a great fan myself. But my God, children, get it together. Instead of, oh, I just so hate him, I hate him, I hate him, I hate him. Good. And what have you got to produce? I got that you hate him. So what's your alternative? More infanticide? More structurally enforced perversion? Is that your answer? Well, you know what? I'm too much of a gentleman to tell you what I think. But suffice it to say that the Trumpster will in all likelihood be reelected, and you can go on hating him for 4 more years. Have a good time.
Okay, so what else is going on, Charles?
Lots of stuff. Lots of stuff. For one thing, as you may or may not have noticed, Halloween having receded into the background, what is showing up now in the stores, and in many places taking the place formerly held by Thanksgiving autumnal displays?
Charles, I don't do my own shopping. I get my secretary to do the shopping. You know this. You're just trying to embarrass me.
Yes, and succeeding. But let's pretend for a second that you would leave the rarefied heights on which you dwell and go into, say, a Rite Aid.
I would
You would
imagine.
buy. What's that?
I would imagine there's Christmas displays.
Oh, the first snow. Oh, no, not that one. Chestnuts roasting on an open fire. Jack Frost nipping off your nose. Yes, it's time, ladies and gentlemen, for secular Christmas.
They don't do First Noel?
Or, as we prefer to call it, holiday.
They don't do First Noel? That's too much?
It's too Christian. I mean, you know that starting at Thanksgiving, which is coming up soon, you're going to have a ton of radio stations across that great land of yours playing nonstop Christmas music for a whole month. Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer had a very shiny Frosty. The snowman was a happy, jolly soul. He's making a list, checking it twice, gonna find out who's naughty or nice. It's the most wonderful time of the year.
How does Europe handle this?
What?
How does Europe handle the Christmas season? Are they like America?
No. They're getting a little bit more the way Halloween has been introduced. But to be honest with you, even in its most secular, it's still about the Christ child and the nativity scene and all that.
Do you guys do secular Christmas music over there?
No, there is no such thing.
What do you do over there? I mean, like, what's on television? What?
Well, they don't have Christmas specials like that. They'll have Christmas concerts on television. And all of the German-speaking parts of Central Europe, they have what are called Christmas markets that are all through Advent, though. And these are big, big carnivals, booths of Christmas stuff. Foods, ornaments, just everything you can imagine having anything to do with Christmas. And there are any major church, any major place with a parking lot will have a Christmas market.
Okay. Sorry if these are stupid questions, but do they do Christmas trees in Europe?
Oh gosh, yes.
Okay. What about Christmas lights?
Yes.
Oh, okay, good. Okay.
They do that. And when you go to the Christmas market, one thing, because it's cold here, it's not like SoCal. It gets really cold and there's snow and it's really Christmassy. And so when you go to the Christmas market, you'll find many booths selling hot mulled wine. So you're there in the chilly cold, and there's snow on the ground, and you're looking at all the Christmassy stuff, and you're drinking your hot wine. It's cold, but you're still very cozy, especially after your 7th or 8th mulled wine. And it's neat. And then, of course, the churches are very, very heavily decorated for Christmas and so on. So it's still very, very nice here. mind you, I will be home for Christmas. I'm coming home around the 17th or 18th, something like that. So I will have the chance to do a couple of my favorite SoCal Christmas things. I'll be able to see the Christmas tree lanes on St. Albans Drive in San Marino and in Altadena.
Hastings Ranch.
Yes.
Or
well,
the
that too. That's different.
okay.
Hastings Ranch and also
The Balian
Santa
Mansion?
Rosa Lane.
What about the Balian Mansion?
That too, the Balian Mansion. Those are my 4 things I take people to in the Christmas season. The Balian Mansion, Hastings Ranch, St. Albans Drive, Santa Rosa Drive.
There you go. That's awesome.
Yep, it is. It is. And of course, one of the great things about Christmas is that almost the entire world outside of Muslim lands, communist China, have to stop and take notice of Christmas, no matter how shallowly they may do. So, dear old Christmas, I'm looking forward to it.
Yep. Okay. So, no memes today. No memes today. If anyone has memes, send them through Twitter. Tag me at Tumblr House. Let's see here.
No memes of production.
No memes. They're staying privatized for today. Yeah. Nothing.
Okay.
Nothing worth acquiring for the common good.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Very swift. All right. So I guess. Oh, by the way, you're going to be faced with this, so you might as well know about it now. There's a bit of discussion about the decoration of the Tumblr House Tower by your employees, and there's a bit of factionalism developing.
Well,
you can guess what it is.
Please tell me, Charles.
Well, some of them want to dive into decorating the place immediately after Thanksgiving when they come back from the 4-day holiday. But others are saying, no, it's a Catholic publishing house, so nothing should be put up for Christmas until it's time to leave for Christmas Eve.
We can have an Advent tree, some Advent decorations, and then they become Christmas decorations.
Okay, but I mean, are you going to go for the same elaborate stuff your brother used to do?
Absolutely, it's important to let everyone know that things are continuing as they have.
Well, I don't know. I mean, some of those decorations he put up were really kitschy. I mean, I don't know, the neon Philip Morris man. It's an old cigarette thing that he got, and he set it up because he said the color scheme was the neon red and green was very Christmassy. Well, it's an ad for Philip Morris tobacco cigarettes.
I like the old timey ads. What's that one? Is it Winston?
Yeah, Winston
tastes good like a cigarette should. That's awesome.
But this is a neon sign for William Morris. Not William Morris. Gosh, now I can't remember the name. It's Morris, anyway. The point is, Philip Morris. The point is, I just think that it is sending the wrong message. I like that. That sounds really portentous, sending the wrong message, because it's vague. It doesn't really say anything.
Yeah, I think, we should take any picture where Santa's smoking a pipe, too, because we don't want to condone pipe smoke,
That's different.
Wait, what?
That's different.
Is it? Is it,
Yeah,
though?
pipe tobacco is organic. It's not like cigarette tobacco that's mined.
They mine the tobacco from the tobacco mines?
That's right, the cigarette tobacco mines.
Okay, well, fair enough, Charles.
All right.
So one last thing, I just want to kind of make an announcement that I'm kind of we're going through questions for now as quick as we can, but kind of dissatisfied at the current rate. Our backlog of patron questions are growing bigger and bigger. And on top of that, all you non-patrons who've sent questions, there's a lot of good ones out there that I've been meaning to get to, but we just can't clear off our plate enough to get to them. So I've changed the goal on the patron for the next tier to be two biannual kind of shows where we can really make some headway in clearing out this backlog. I think we're only like $50 away, actually. But so go to Patreon, and hopefully this Christmas season we can really, cut through all these questions.
Yeah, or maybe when I come back to California, we could do sort of a weird dance marathon. Just take hours and knock these things out, and then you can display them whatever you want to.
Oh, okay. Why'd you say dance marathon?
Well, because we go on and on and on, like a marathon, like a dance marathon. But,
okay.
38 hours on their feet, ladies and gentlemen. How do they manage it? Dance marathons were big during the Depression.
Interesting. Okay, so hopefully we have that coming up. Oh, do you know when you're coming back here yet, Charles?
17th or 18th, I think, of December.
Okay, cool. Okay, and a lot of people ask, what are these flags behind you? Where can I get them? Look in the summary of our video. It's the Sacré-Cœur. It's a wall tapestry available in our Teespring store. So that's how you can get them. And that's it. Well, we can go into we also need to do a shout out to Alex Matthews.
Oh, yeah.
Whose little girl, Madeline, it's her 3rd birthday. So, hello.
Happy birthday, Madeline.
Happy birthday, Madeline.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Madeline. Happy birthday to you. Number 3.
Cute. Okay, let's get to the questions.
All right, what do we got? Let's move.
First 2 questions are from Neil.
Hello, Neil.
What are your thoughts on Stoicism? Is it possible to incorporate it into everyday living within the framework of Catholicism? Or is it nothing but a replacement for what should be greater faith in God's will?
That's a good question. Stoicism, like so many of these ancient philosophies, the biggest questions were answered by the faith itself. The Stoic way of self-detachment from the things of this world has kind of a surface relationship to some of what Christianity is about, but only on the surface, because it makes that detachment an end in itself, and that's the difference.
That's interesting, because that's Buddhism too.
Yeah, there's very much a lot of similarities. The idea of renouncing the world, not to gain in virtue per se, and not to get closer to God, but to escape pain. So you've got a point there. Anyway, that's what I say. So, what else does he have for us?
I often read about saints. Saint Margaret Mary Alacoque comes to mind, who would seek out more suffering even though they were already suffering more than most. I have a hard time understanding this. I've tried to offer up things such as migraine pain, for example, to our Lord, but I always try to get rid of that pain quickly. It seems unimaginable to actually wish for more pain that I could offer up. Is it laudable to ask God for more suffering, or is our everyday suffering sufficient?
Well, I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all on this question. I really don't, in the sense that the great saint like St. Margaret Mary Alacoque was so aware and so conscious of Christ's love for us in a way that most of us simply aren't, given our natures. I think if you've got that kind of understanding of the love of God, it makes suffering and all that worthwhile. you want to return more for what you see that you're getting. But most of us, being kind of lukewarm anyway, we have only a lukewarm apprehension of what God's done for us. And for those of us like that, it's the most we can do just to perform our regular duties. So I think it depends a lot on the individual who's asking the question, rather than there being a straight yes or no answer.
Okay. It reminds me of one of our priest sermons. He said, I forgot. He said something like, "Don't ever ask for more suffering, because God will give it to you. He'll give it to you every time."
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I remember when abortion came in, and I said to my dad, "I don't see how it could ever get worse." He said, "Don't say that. It can always get worse." He was right. Well, what else we got?
What you're saying? The night is always darkest before everything collapses completely?
It's always darkest before it collapses completely. Very true. And self-delusion is the key to positive thinking. So, yeah. What else we got?
All right. Next question is from Julian. Do you think it was a mistake for St. Pius X to remove the Imperial Veto, Jus exclusive, the right of exclusion? Do you think it will come to bite the church one day? Is it possible for future monarchs to get around the automatic excommunication for putting in a veto? And can future popes make the Imperial Veto a thing again? What is this about, Charles? What's the Imperial Veto?
Well, basically, not just the Holy Roman Emperors and later the Austrian Emperors, but also the kings of France and Spain, being the leading Catholic powers, exercised especially in the 15th, 16th, 17th, and 18th centuries, the jus exclusive, the right to exclude a given cardinal from consideration for the papacy. In other words, they couldn't say who would be pope, but they could say a particular cardinal would not be pope. So in 1903, it looked like the late Pope Leo XIII's secretary, Cardinal Rampolla, was going to become pope. Now, he was kind of a radical lefty. So the Austrian emperor gave the Archbishop of Krakow, who was a cardinal, his veto and said, if Rampolla is in the running, veto him. And that's what he did. And the result is that we got St. Pius X, who turned around and said, well, we're not going to have this anymore. Now,
even though that was hugely beneficial, and
yeah, he benefited from it.
How ironic is that?
He benefited from it, but you see, the problem is, there are no kings today, no reigning rulers, that I would want to entrust that veto to. You know, you got the King of Spain, who's very lukewarm in his faith.
Yeah.
There is no France. There's no King of France. And there is no Holy Roman Empire. So could it come back? Well, if the monarchs came back, it could. One pope could certainly undo what one of his predecessors did.
Yeah, so, we've kind of talked about this before. It's very interesting how, when it comes to the United States, perhaps if we had rulers who weren't insane and evil, we could be in favor of, giving them more powers for various things. But as you said in the past, we're pretty darn libertarian when it comes to these things because they're just going to mess it up with the way things are. So
I mean, who could you entrust the jus exclusive to? I mean, it would have been nice if someone. Well, never mind. I'm not going to be unkind.
Okay. Good.
What else we got?
Yeah, no badness on this show, Charles.
No. Today the show is a badness-free zone.
Yeah. Okay, next question is from Joseph. Is Charles familiar with the science fiction novels of Ursula K. Leguin? What does he think of them? Does he know of any authors of similar talent in creating and exploring fictional societies who do so from a Catholic perspective?
Walter Miller, Mark Saban, Drew Bowling, definitely Tim Powers. There are a lot of them. It's a hard question. It's a very hard question.
What's hard?
I just blanked. What was the question again?
Is Charles familiar with the science fiction novels of Ursula K. Leguin?
Right. So there are certainly a lot of very fine Catholic horror, science fiction, and fantasy writers. Ursula K. Le Guin is not one of them. Her parents were anthropologists, and she's not what you would call terribly pro-Catholic. She's something of a feminist, etc. So, but I've never actually read any of her books, so I'll have to include myself out.
Okay. Next question is from Waylon Duncan. A question for both Vincent and Charles. What is your favorite religious order and why?
Oof. Well, there are a lot that I like. I like the Dominicans. I like the Mercedarians. I like the Benedictines, the Carmelites. Almost anybody but the Jesuits. And even though they were pretty good once upon a time. The Oratorians I like, or the Norbertines. So I have a lot to choose from. How about you?
Two are at the forefront. I consider myself to be a Franciscan spirituality. And so I like the Franciscans, but we don't have a lot of Franciscans over here. The Franciscans I know best are, I think Mother Angelica's order are Franciscans. So...
Which is the divine word, whatever it is.
Yeah, I forgot what it was, but the orders that I have the most experience here, because I'm not nearly as well traveled. I love the Carmelites.
Yeah.
For the Knights of Columbus, we had some interactions with the Carmelites over here for the sisters, and they're all little Saint Teresa's. They are so radiant and bright. It's like a blind man seeing the color red for the first time. It's unbelievable. And it really... You can really see Christ within them. It's incredible. It's awe-inspiring. They really inspire me. So the Carmelites... Yeah, the Carmelites for sure. I love our Carmelite priests as well. They're, in my opinion, very holy men. And I like the Norbertines, obviously. We have, St. Michael's Abbey down in Silverado, and we get their priests sometimes. So, yeah. Those are my faves.
Makes sense.
All right. Next question is from Garrett. Season's greetings, Mr. Franchini and Mr. Coulombe.
Merry Christmas.
I hope you chaps are having a splendid day.
I think so.
I am curious if the baby boomer fella could enlighten me and the other viewers on the Emu War, one of many of the Anglo's shortcomings in history.
I don't know about a shortcoming. The Emu War was an heroic struggle. This was the kind of conflict which poems like the Iliad and the Odyssey were written to commemorate. It took place in 1932 in Western Australia, where the farmers of that state noticed that there was an explosion in the emu population. So they called on the army, the Australian army, to intervene. The soldiers of the king. Soldiers of the king, me lads, who've been my lads, who've seen... Yes, anyway. So they took up the struggle with their Lewis guns against the evil emus. Bang, 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 bang. But for every emu they popped, 7 or 8 were born or were hatched. So eventually the Emu War, the Great Emu War, was called to a halt after several received the Victoria Cross for gallantry under fire. No, that didn't happen. But what did happen was that it went down in Australian agricultural memory, especially Western Australia. They found eventually that laying heavy bounties on the emus helped more getting people to come in and kill them than even a vast military campaign. So, nevertheless, the emus continue to wage a guerrilla war of freedom against their human oppressors. And one day, we emus, we will rise to freedom. And together with the Tasmanian tigers, we'll take over all of Australia and free the country from Aborigines and Europeans alike.
So you have on one side men with guns, and on the other side you have birds, and the birds won.
Well, yes, the birds won. But you must understand that they had been, now this isn't well known, the birds had been trained. The Japanese, as part of their attempt to destabilize Australia and that part of the British Empire, had vast emu training centers in Japan. And trained emus were dropped in by airplane by the Japanese Kempeitai, the secret police. And they radicalized and trained other emus.
I don't think that's true. I don't believe that story.
You don't believe that?
No, I don't.
So you think I made that up?
Yeah, I'm pretty confident you made that up right now.
But why? Why would I make up such a terrible story?
I don't know. The human heart is a mystery, Charles.
Oh, good comeback. All right. Well, all I can tell you is that the glorious Emu War eventually tapered off. But as I say, there's still sporadic guerrilla resistance by the Free Emu Front, the FEF.
Do emus get along with ostriches, or do they fight?
Well, I don't know. The ostrich is not native to Australia, of course, but they have them there. In the 1870s, I think, they imported ostriches to Australia. And part of it was for the feathers and the meat. Part of it was ostrich races.
Nice.
Yeah.
How do you get an ostrich to race?
Put a saddle on it.
People were riding ostriches?
Yes. Yes.
People were riding ostriches like horses.
Yep.
Are you joking, or are you being serious?
Nope, I'm serious. Life is truly stranger than fiction. Anyway, there was the Great Emu War, 1932's contribution to the 20th century. So what else do we got?
Okay, gosh, this has been such a quick episode. Okay. Our last question today is from Patty Fournier.
Okay.
More and more, I've been coming to view Catholic Twitter and the trad blogs as an occasion for pride and despair.
Oh.
On one hand, it is important to stay up to date on ecclesiastical affairs, but on the other, a constant stream of synodal shenanigans, to use a timely example, can become addictive and spiritually harmful, almost like pornography. I realized this when a few days ago I found myself constantly refreshing Dr. Taylor Marshall's feed for videos of liturgical abuse, Roman silliness, and witty insults against the liberals. It almost feels like rubbernecking a month-long shipwreck. In your estimation, my dudes, is it better to man the trenches of the e-apostolate, or simply to busy ourselves with the more immediate responsibilities and duties given us by God?
Well, here again, I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all answer to it. Obviously, the responsibilities given you by God have to take precedence, and among those responsibilities is seeing the salvation of your own soul. So, if you find yourself getting wrapped up to this stuff to the detriment of either your spiritual life or your duties in the state of life, then you've just got to kiss it goodbye. Leave it alone. Because remember, too, it's not like there's a lot you can do about it. I mean, the last time I checked, the Pope has never asked me anything about anything. And I have a very strange feeling that this state of affairs is going to continue for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, it doesn't end. See, that's the thing.
It just goes on and on and on and on and on. So, I mean, again, if you find it useful for what you have to do, it's useful for me, because I have to write about this stuff. But I try to forget about it as soon as I've written about it. You know, that's why I've got a fondness for old music. Gets my mind off it.
Yeah. I'm going to defer to Father Ripperger on this because he says it a lot better than me. I'm going to quote him from one of his videos, and I've turned it also into an article, 10 Problems of the Traditionalist Movement. And this is one section of that I feel is unbelievably important. So I keep blasting it out there. I'm going to read it. It's a little long, but bear with me.
All right.
Giving into the vice of curiosity by reading literature which affects our faith or affect us psychologically or spiritually is another problem you see among trads. And this is something that's clearly demonic because of the fact that it drives people to spend large amounts of time reading every last stitch of literature on how bad everything is. We have an obligation to protect our faith. And sometimes that even means avoiding people who tell us the truth, for which we are unprepared, psychologically, spiritually, or intellectually. If reading this stuff drags you down, you've got to get away from it and stop reading it. We ought to be aware of the problems in the church, but you don't need to read too much for that. It seems like there's a new book every week almost, or there's some new article on how bad everything is. People say, Father, have you read this? Father, have you read that? I'm just like, I've seen it all. I don't need to read it to know it. And I'll ask these people, when was the last time you read a book on the saints? And they say, well, I find that literature boring or difficult. End quote.
Yeah, and that's a big problem. I mean, we've discussed on the show before how the late lamented Bill Feeney of Catholic Treasures used to say that apocalyptic literature is sold like hotcakes. We're getting people to read serious books of devotion, serious books on doctrine of liturgy, whatever.
Yeah.
They didn't have the time for it. As he says, oh, it's too boring. Well, all right.
Yeah.
It can become sort of spiritual pornography, no doubt about it. Literally.
And being on the other side of it, too, I have to say, because a lot of people are very critical of kind of traditional Catholic media, there's a tremendous temptation to do this nonstop as well.
Yeah.
And I've seen it personally, and I personally don't like it. All of our videos, if you look, like one of our most watched ones is the one, it was a special episode. Well, it wasn't an episode, but it was a special segment when you had the people, the philosophers condemned, not condemned, but accused Pope Francis of the heresy.
Yeah.
And that video exploded. But I hated that. And you see all these pissed off people in comments, and it's not that shining city on the hill. I mean, these people, this isn't getting, people closer to God.
No, not at all.
So that bothers me personally as a Catholic book peddler and someone who wants everyone to grow spiritually, is that if you look at all of her videos, the videos on spirituality, like True Devotion or Mary, or anything having to do with your spiritual life, no one's actually interested. No one's actually, very few people.
Yeah.
But then on, like, whenever we talk about, the dubia or vegano or any shenanigans, that skyrockets. That skyrockets the popularity and views. But you know what? I'm not going to do that. I've resolved to not chase the views, not chase that, because that's not the solution.
Well, no, and the thing is too, you could be angry all the time, but what's the anger going to do for you? How are you going to fix it? You know, I could be, if I wanted to be as angry at the Synod Fathers as anyone ever was. How would that change anything except hurt me?
Yeah.
They'd never notice my anger. They don't care what I think. They don't care what you think. They're going to do what they're going to do.
And
So,
yeah.
how is getting all angry about them going to help unless you've got some sort of an outlet that you can use?
And but I do want to say the other side, which is I think it's very important to cover the scandal for Catholic media. Whether it's Taylor Marshall or Michael Voris or George Newmayer and all this and that. And the metaphor you used is very powerful. That's what I fall back on. Which when you said, do cockroaches and mold grow in darkness or light? They grow in darkness. Yeah. And when you shed light on it, when people shed light on the matter, that's when they scatter. That's how you get rid of that. So if we keep ignoring it, it's just going to keep getting worse. Yeah. So again, it's this delicate balancing act that everybody has to do, I feel.
It's true. And also you have to bear in mind, once more, your state in life. Yeah. I mean, if you find that pursuing this stuff is lessening your faith, increasing your despair, etc., anything that gives the devil a bigger hold on you is something you want to avoid. Now, it might be that it isn't. It might be that because of your knowledge of these things, you've been able to make some useful decisions. You didn't send your kid to college X. You didn't move to diocese Y. That, I could easily see it being the source of useful advice, but you gotta be careful with it. You gotta be very careful.
Yeah, I'm going to get a little personal, but just to use an example, I know one person who, well, I don't know the exact reason, but you see, this one person has converted to Russian Orthodoxy.
Yeah.
That hurts me because this person is a friend of mine, and it's like, what the hell, that it just makes me sad. It makes me really sad. That shouldn't be how it goes. And I sure hope, I thankfully don't know this, but I sure hope no one is turning Sedeve contests because of this.
Well, see, it seems to me that we're faced with a very interesting time in the church, in that we have a papacy that is probably the most controversial since Julius III's. But at that same time, Eastern Orthodoxy is splitting because there's no center there. So it's Russia versus Constantinople, and what's happening is the different Orthodox churches are lining up on two different sides of this divide. Now, personally, I think that this may very well be ultimately a way in which two things are accomplished. One, the exact limits of the papacy are more clearly spelled out, and perhaps the limits of what we call the ordinary magisterium. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, it may well be that this split in orthodoxy is precisely to show the Orthodox the problems you've got when you do not have a settled head. And paradoxically, perhaps by showing the most grotesque example of a single settled head that you could find. People have been excited over the whole Pachamama deal and the paganry at the Amazon Synod, who you would never have expected to be excited about anything. You say, but again, that's all on the one side. On the other side, we have never seen Orthodoxy this deeply divided in our time. And Orthodox apologists try to sort of, brush it over. Oh, well, it's not permanent. I hope not. But I'm sure people felt the same way in 1054. And of course, it wasn't permanent then, because East and West came back into union from time to time, but never for any length of time, and it was not that sincere. So, my deepest, dearest wish is for the Orthodox to settle their hash, fix their own house, and then to reestablish the union with them that we had for the first 1,000 years. That's my great hope. But at the moment, we can't reunite with Orthodoxy because you can't say what Orthodoxy is. You can't say who speaks for Orthodoxy. Is it the Patriarch of Moscow or the Patriarch of Constantinople? And similarly, ultra-papalists are having a hard time. People for whom the Catholic Church was the mystical body of the Pope, they're having a hard time because it's not. And infallibility is apparently not what a lot of people thought it was. Now, mind you, it isn't a problem for those who actually bothered to read the decree defining infallibility, but most Catholics didn't. They just sort of had this feeling that the Pope was somehow in direct connection with heaven, and that heaven guided all of his deeds directly. Well, it's not true. Never has been true. It is an amazing time to be alive, but you remember the great old Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times.
Was it a curse?
Yeah, it's a curse.
I thought it was like a proverb.
Well, yeah, but it's a curse of a proverb. I'd rather live in comfortable times when everything was relaxed and enjoyable.
When was that?
During the Golden Age.
Yeah, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Also known as the Golden Age, which was for the years.
It was when everything was right and good.
Okay. Yeah. Go on.
It was the before time.
Oh, like 1950s.
Maybe.
1950s is the Golden Age?
Maybe. Partly. To a degree.
No. You're not. That's not what you're saying. All right, fine.
It doesn't matter. I want to go back to the Golden Age, and I don't care when it was. Okay? Are we satisfied, Mr. Nail him to the wall and get an exact date out of him? Yeah. Maybe it's the 1850s, maybe the 1450s, maybe the 1250s, maybe 50.
Since we're here again, movie recommendation, Midnight in Paris, since that deals exactly with what we're talking about with the Golden Age.
Yeah. Well...
So,
and he had the right idea. If we could just get back to the Golden Age, everything would be wonderful.
No, she did. I forgot her name, the French actress. But
I don't know how well that turned out for her, though.
I don't know either. That's yeah. Okay. So are we done here?
I think so. It's been a short trip.
Wait, we're not. What? We got the book. We still got the book. Fear not. Here we go. Let me grab it. Okay. Metaphysics of Evolution by Father Chad Ripperger. I've been on a Father Ripperger binge lately, so this is I read this book because this is one of the areas that I could not defend well. You know, I needed some tidying up. I needed to be able to defend it better. And who better than Father Ripperger? He's so calm and collected with everything. So this is actually a philosophical approach to debunking evolution. It's pretty enjoyable in that sense. So if you're a philosophical person instead of a scientific person, this book is for you. I'm going to read a couple quotes and we can talk about the quotes. So who is the philosopher who was it? Hegel? Was it Hegelian, where the universe creates itself over and over again?
I'm thinking of Kant, but
or Hume. No, I don't think. Yeah. Okay. So okay, here's a quote: "Nothing cannot bring itself into existence because the existence was not there to begin with. You can't go from nothing to something. See,
That's true.
all these people, all these atheists are trying to do this. I think Stephen Hawkins tried to do this, where I think he said like gravity was like the eternal constant, and there was nothing else, and through that, like everything happened. And
doesn't make any sense. The Big Bang.
Yeah, the Big Bang.
Boom.
Yeah, but it tries to dodge the fact that what did the creating? There has to be something that does the act of creating.
No, it just happened.
Yeah, so he makes the point that when we say nothing, we're not actually truly thinking of nothing.
No.
We're thinking of an absence of light, an absence of form or something. It's not truly nothing. So I thought that was interesting. And it's fascinating to me because you have geniuses who don't abide by simple rules of logic.
Well, there's a reason for that.
Why?
The will precedes the intellect. They go to what they want to go to. And what they want to go to is atheism, because atheism frees them from restraint. If there is no God, you can do what you like. There's a downside, however. If there's no God, nothing's worth anything.
Yeah. Okay, next quote. I love this one. This is so good. Inorganic compounds cannot produce life because life does not exist in the inorganic compounds. Even when one has more than one set of causes, if life is not contained in those causes, life cannot come from those causes, regardless of how many there might be. To put this in the context of macroevolution, a primordial soup and lightning cannot produce something that has life because neither one of them has it.
Wait a minute. Didn't you ever see Frankenstein?
Oh, gosh, that's true.
Now, how was he able to bring his monster to life? It was through lightning, electricity.
That's true.
See?
Wow, that's a great
comeback to Father Ripperger. The argument for movies.
Well, it had life. Well, no, it's not movies per se. No, what did Mary Shelley say? Now, Mary Shelley didn't say lightning, did she?
It was electrical force.
Oh, was it? Okay, yeah, because hers, it was a little bit more philosophical. It wasn't so dramatic.
Yeah. She missed out on the whole, give my creation life!
Yeah. That was about different things. It was, yeah, so, okay. That's interesting. That's an interesting take, Charles. Okay. Last quote. Macroevolution essentially asserts that a thing does not act according to its nature. For if it acted according to its nature, it would not produce something other than its nature. Now, I actually arrived at this independently in thinking about this, where you see nature and you feel something, right? There is wonder. That, you see a beaver dam, and you see, oh, this is nature. Well, when you go into a city, in an urban environment, you don't think, oh, that's nature. So in other words, how could nature become not nature? That's what I always said to myself. How do you do that? You can't do that. Nature will always be nature.
You can hold your breath and make it so.
I'm going to bring up one additional thing, since this is such a short episode and we have more time, which is another area that Father Ripperger talks about, which is theistic evolution. Because some theologians try to bridge the gap, right? They try to make everything work. So I have one quote here from theistic evolution, on what Father Ripperger thinks of it. Theistic evolution, whether it states that it is a natural process, which is really just a covert way of introducing constant miracles, or asserts outright that miracles are constantly necessary for the process, violates the principle of economy. It violates the principle of economy because it posits a number of causes, in this case, God intervening as a cause on repeated occasions without a sufficient reason. In other words, God is creating these miraculous ways for animals to change their nature, but why are we doing this process to begin with in this quasi-natural thing? It violates the law of economy. So that is the approach that Father Ripperger uses in this, where he takes simple, I forgot what he calls them. I just simple rules of logic, and then he says how each part of evolution violates a very simple rule.
Oh,
So I highly recommend it. It's a short book. It's not. Now I will say this one caveat. It does take some time to wrap your head around some of these sentences, some of these concepts. But you just say the sentence one more time in your head and you get it. And then once you have these things down, you'll be able to adequately defend the Catholic position on this matter. So that'll do it. It's $9.95 on the Tumbler House website. $9.95. And I highly recommend it. I do highly recommend it. All of Father Ripperger's books are selling like hotcakes right now. Binding Force of Tradition, Magisterial Authority, Deliverance Prayers, Metaphysics of Evolution. I still have to read his the Principle of Integral Good and Topics of Tradition, but those are definitely on my to-read list that I'll probably be promoting those books in the upcoming episodes once I finish reading them. So, any final words, Charles, for this episode?
well, yes, there are. About 100 years ago, 101 years ago, World War I ended, and that's the 11th day of the 11th hour of the 11th month. The guns ceased on the Western Front, and on that same day, Blessed Emperor Karl withdrew from the business of government. He didn't abdicate, but he withdrew from government in Austria. Now, it's important to remember that there are very few of us who will be watching this show who were not affected by that war so long ago. You may not realize it, you may not know it, but you are where you are to a great degree because of that. And for many of us, we had lost family members in that war, people we never knew, people whose lives were cut off far too soon. And we're talking literally millions of people. The body count was bigger in the Second World War, much bigger, but the Second World War was a natural outgrowth of that First World War. What would the world have been like if those people had not died? Because it wasn't simply their numbers. They were the most gallant, the most forward, the most patriotic and loyal of their respective countries' citizens. And what the lack of their presence did, we can never know. Obviously, you can't know what you don't have. You only know you don't have it. But I mention this because a lot of them were terribly idealistic people, and they sacrificed their lives in hopes that their countries and the world as a whole would be better places than they left them. So far, it looks like that sacrifice was in vain, because the world is certainly not a better place than it was in 1914. Some of our technology is a lot better. Our medicines are better. Things like that we're much better at. We're more comfortable. We certainly have means of communication like this that were only thought of by science fiction writers in 1914. But in the areas of faith, morals, personal integrity, personal honor. Well, at the very least, we can't say that we're more advanced than they were. So, those of us who survive them, it is up to us by our own lives, our own actions, to try to make the world a better place, a place that would have been worthy of our gallant ancestors who went off to war so very long ago. On that thought, I'll leave you with a story from my own past. I had an aunt. One of the things, ladies and gentlemen, is that I'm old enough to have known a lot of World War I veterans growing up. My grandfather, most of my great uncles, they were all in the war. And my great aunt by marriage, the sister of my grandmother, my father's mother, married my grandfather in a double wedding she married my great uncle by marriage in a double wedding with my grandmother and grandfather. In other words, she married my grandfather's best friend, the two sisters. Well, said best friend went off to World War I, and he was gassed. When he went off, he was a very happy-go-lucky fellow, jolly, jovial, joking, all those three J's. Very typically French-Canadian fellow. He came back a very bitter, nasty individual. Very, very different from the man that they had known. And he took it out on his wife. I guess today we would say that he had PTSD. In those days, they called it shell shock. But he had never been diagnosed with shell shock. He just came back nasty and partly blinded. Well, this sounds like a terrible story, and it is. He was a very abusive man. And then my great aunt died, leaving him with their Down syndrome daughter. And he was alone. There was no one else to take care of her. My cousin Marcel. So he did. And the funny thing about that is that changed him again. The actions of looking after his disabled daughter, taking care of her, took very good care of her, and she died. I think she was pushing 40, which in those days for a Down syndrome person was very old. And by the time I knew him, he was an extremely sweet old man. And everyone said it was because of his experiences of taking care of Marcel. Well, why do I tell this story? It's one story out of millions. Most of you today are too young to have known people who lived at that time. But just as the younger members of my family were indirectly affected by Uncle Joseph's experiences, so are you. Your parents were affected by them. Your grandparents were affected by them in ways that you were completely unaware of. So, say prayers for the dead, say prayers for the living, and try your best, as I say. Let's try to make this a world worthy of heroes, worthy of saints. The best way to do that is to try to become saints and heroes ourselves. So with that, let's wish you all a very happy Remembrance Day, Armistice Day, Memorial Day, what do they call it? Veterans Day. And a very happy Feast of St. Martin. So don't forget all this hard Remembrance Day stuff, but do have some goose and some wine for the Feast of St. Martin. Don't let it all be dark and horrible.
Okay. We'll see you next time.
God bless you, kids. Bye-bye.